Okay, thanks for stopping by and coming to see my process for creating watercolor flow paintings, as I call them. So I thought I'd go over the supplies. I included the names of everything in the description, but I thought I'd show you what I use as well and how I use what paints I used. So I'm going to show you the tools that I use. First of all, this is a piece of corrugated plastic that I cut up. You can see that it's corrugated. And it's really great because of course it's plastic, so you can just keep reusing it. I used to be quite anal about keeping these clean, but a lot of the things that I use now, they stain, so I kind of gave up more or less, but this is a lot of things will still come off, but I just, whatever. Anyway, and then this is the paper. This is mineral paper, and it's by Yasutomo. I bought an 11 by 14 pad of 20, and it was under 40 Canadian dollars, so quite reasonable. I get 4 of these sized pages out of each sheet, they cut, I frame them at 5 by 7 so that I have, I follow standard sizes. And then the next thing I use is a brush, the Royal Langnickel. This is a jumbo size 40 soft. It's nice and flat, and as you can see, it is quite soft. And of course, it's nice because the larger the brush, because this uses so much water, the larger the brush, the more water it will hold. So it's very handy. It's quite heavy, surprisingly, obviously heavier than a smaller brush would be. But if you don't have that, and you don't need to have it unless you want it, you could maybe try a paintbrush, but I think if it's flatter, it's better, or thinner, it's better. So this one is from a kit I bought, and this is a Princeton brush. It's a 3/4 inch flat brush, I think it is, and it works fine, but this I find is much easier to work with. I do sometimes use this as I go through it, but mostly after I add the water, I use this brush, which is another Princeton brush, and it's a liner brush, which is great for detailing or putting marks in or whatever, but also you can use it to flick or splatter paint as well. And then another very useful tool is a pipette, as I call it, or some call it a pipette, and it is great for scooping up or sucking up water. It's very, very useful, and I got a lot of this stuff on Amazon, but this I got 300 of these when I used to do another crafty type thing, and so I have so many of these, but they're reusable, and I just rinse them out after I use them, so I just continue to use them. Now for colors, this painting is violets, and there's another color, but anyway, I'll go through the colors. In my experience, I started out trying to use 2 paints, and they work very well because most watercolors are transparent. This does have some white in it, I think, but it's mostly transparent. So this you can use watercolor 2 paints if you use them almost straight. I don't use them straight. I do mix them with water because you want it to be like the consistency of liquid acrylic or some other form of liquid. So you can definitely use them, and I'll come back to this because I created a color using that. So the majority of this painting is done with these colors. These are Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay Calligraphy Inks, and they are they didn't have a purple or a violet, and so I now have it, but this actually works quite well. So I have a violet and I have a red violet. That violet is blue and this one is quite red. But you can do this if you want to. You can just buy this because it does work well, and it has a benefit of separating a bit so you get the colors. It's almost like one of those colors that, I forget what they're called, but they have texture to them. Anyway, so to make a blue violet, you use a little bit of blue, but you basically double the amount or so of magenta with it. And that will create that typical royal purple color, or more of a blue violet. And then if you want to create a red violet, I just did the same. I created a purple and then I added a lot more magenta, and that gave me the red violet. So that is the purples. And I also use the magenta as another color on its own, just for some brighter areas. And then the last color I used is what I would call a buff titanium. And to make that, I used, again, these, I had all of these, so I didn't have to buy anything, but I used Dr. P.H. Martin's Calligraphy Sepia and White. And obviously you use just a bit of sepia and a lot of white, and it creates that very dull cement-like beigey white, if that makes any sense. And then I just felt it needed a little something, so I added a tiny bit of mead and yellow ochre. These are great paints, and if you want to start but don't want to use high quality paints, then just get yourself a student grade set. But I don't know that you could get the same results if you use paints that were in cakes, because they're not as intense. You need to use it fairly thick, as I think I said already. So that's what I used in this painting. In another video, I might go through other supplies that I use while I do this. So let's get started and get on to the next section, which is me actually demonstrating.